Hi everyone, welcome to a Subtle Asian Book Club interview. Today we have the wonderful, amazing, and talented Emiko Jean, author of Tokyo After, which is a book that all of us have been so excited to read because the general premise is like it's kind of like the Princess Diaries set in Japan. If you want to explain it a little bit better than I did, please go ahead, take it away, Emiko.
Well, you actually said, I think the log line that we've been using is Princess Diaries meets Crazy Rich Asians, which I feel like describes it pretty well. Yeah.
That was perfect. We had so much fun reading this book. I was thinking that it would make like a wonderful movie. I would love to see it on screen one day.
Yeah.
But just to introduce ourselves, because I realized we forgot to do that. Hello, I am Tiffany, one of the co-hosts of Subtle Asian Book Club.
I am Alexandra, also known as Twirling Pages, also one of the co-hosts of Subtle Asian Book Club.
And with us we have...
I'm Emiko Jean. I am the author of a YA thriller, We'll Never Be Apart, a YA fantasy, Empress of All Seasons, and the upcoming YA contemporary now, Tokyo Ever After.
All of which are super amazing. We'll leave links to the bottom in the description box below if you want to check them out. But let's just dive right into the first question, which is what inspired you to write Tokyo Ever After, and how has it evolved since its initial idea?
That's a good question. So what really appealed to me was writing about a girl like myself, or a teenage girl like myself, who was Japanese American, who was searching for her identity, a place where she belongs. And I remember growing up struggling with that a lot, and then also struggling with kind of a lack of representation in young adult literature. And so it seemed like a natural fit to combine those two things, lack of representation and my own identity struggles, and recast them in a book that I didn't ever see myself in, which is The Princess Diaries, which I loved when I was younger.
Can you introduce the main cast of characters with us using only 3 words each? They're all so fun.
It's putting me on the spot here, so I was trying to think of that. Let's see here. So I think Izumi is fun, funny, and full of heart. Full of heart, I'm counting as one word. Akio, the love interest, is loyal and broody and smart. I think, Izumi's friends, or like her best friend group as a whole, are generous, loving, and persistent. And her dad is patriotic, devoted, and kind. That's how I would describe them in a nutshell.
Honestly, that was perfect for all of them. For Akio, who's my favorite. I was like, yes, brooding, protective, loyal. We love that. Obviously, you saw a lot of yourself in Izumi, so she's probably one of your favorite characters to write. So aside from her, did you have another favorite character you really loved getting into?
Yeah, I was just discussing this on like a podcast interview this morning about like a challenging character to write. That was the question. And I realized that he was kind of also my favorite character to write, and that was Yoshi, because he was challenging in the sense that he came from a totally different world than I came from. So I really had to dig in and kind of find that, he's a prince in the book. And so I really had to find that in myself. And then also he was so fun to write because he's charming and privileged and a little caustic, and like he kind of has this devil may care attitude. And I thought that was just so fun to write, and so opposite of me too. So that was great.
What was your favorite part about writing Tokyo Ever After as a whole? And do you have any favorite moments, favorite quotes, or favorite scenes?
I really loved writing the romance. I'm a big romance fan. And I loved drafting that first scene where Izumi meets Akio, and where they're on the plane. And I like that juxtaposition of he's like so put together, and she's all disheveled from being on the plane for so long, and she has like crumbs all over her shirt, and her chair squeaks and like makes like rude sounds, like that sound like farting noises when she is like meeting him for the first time. And I thought it was so funny, like just those two people. And again, like I feel like that would be like so me, or someone I know, that like you're meeting like a male model and you're like licking chocolate off your shirt. So I thought that was so fun to write.
That was one of my favorite scenes, especially because he could see like the movie that she was watching too through the entire plane. And I was like, wow, that's so relatable.
Yeah.
Do you have like a favorite quote or maybe a favorite moment between characters other than that one?
I really liked when, and this is like a spoiler chat, right? Like we can talk about all different parts of
Yeah,
the book.
we'll tag spoilers.
Okay,
for
perfect. Okay. um, when Izumi goes to Kyoto and she's in the bamboo forest and she meets the farmer there, I loved that scene and crafting, something from an older generation and bringing some of the history into it and her really learning about her culture. That was one of my favorite scenes also to draft.
Yeah, I loved all the Kyoto scenes. It was so like
Yeah.
breath of fresh air. You can slow down a little bit.
Yeah. In many ways, Kyoto was the original capital of Japan, and so it really is the cultural heart of Japan, I think, in many ways. And so I'm glad that seemed to come through in the novel.
How did you go about forming the romance between Izumi and Akio? Like, obviously, we love them a lot. I'm such a fan of this, the bodyguard trope. So, how did you go about like crafting this?
Same. I am a big fan of the bodyguard trope as well. And I love like a good enemies to friends to lovers trope too. He's a little bit based on when I was younger, I watched Pride and Prejudice a lot. And so he's a little bit based on Mr. Darcy kind of being so buttoned up and stoic. Yeah. And so that's really where, and Izumi is not like Lizzie Bennet at all, but that's originally where like the inspiration for Akio came from.
We love Mr. Darcy.
Yeah. I think he's been recast in many novels.
A major part of the book focused on the child-parent relationship between Izumi and her parents. How does the book explore these two differing dynamics?
Yeah. So I think that, Izumi has like a really strong relationship with her mom from the get-go. And it really is the two of them against the world. And I think having such a solid, secure attachment to her mom made it so that Izumi is willing to take risks. And so it really became the catapult for her to reach out to her father and feel safe in doing so, knowing that she could always come home to her mom. And I think their parenting too is very opposite. Like Izumi's mom really leans in and Izumi's dad is kind of leans out a little bit because he's still trying to feel out his daughter and who she is and his place in her life. But by the end, he's more present in her life.
So Izumi finds herself lost between these two identities. The first part being like not American enough when she's here in the US, and then not Japanese enough when she goes back to Japan. Did you find yourself incorporating your own experiences, grappling with this diaspora identity into the book?
Yeah, for sure. So I, especially the outset of the novel when Izumi describes being asked the questions like, where are you from? Do you speak any Japanese? Have you ever been to Japan? I remember being asked those, when I was a teen and actually now too as an adult. They never really go away. And kind of feeling like a deep sense of shame that I couldn't answer the way people wanted to, or thinking that there was something missing inside me. I hadn't been to Japan when I was a teen, and so I couldn't say yes. I don't speak very much Japanese, so I can't, say yes to that. And so never really feeling like, you're American enough and never feeling like you're Japanese enough. That's definitely, came from the heart.
The book explores through all different parts of Japan and also Japanese culture. What was the research process like for this book?
So there was a ton, mostly around like the Japanese court system and like their etiquette rules. So I read biographies. I read a ton of historical texts. I read one banned book that came out of Australia that was banned in Japan that was about the royal family. Lots of news articles. I attended a couple of lectures on the imperial family. And all of those were kind of like puzzle pieces that fit together to form like what their private lives look like, what their personal lives, what their political lives look like, their public lives, all of that. It's practically another language, like learning like court systems.
Did you get to travel back to Japan while you were writing this book?
I didn't. And I was kind of hoping to, and then, COVID. So that happened. Yeah.
I hope you get to go soon. But the food, specifically the food described in this book, was so like mouth-watering. I was like, maybe her research was part of eating some of this royal food.
Yeah.
These 6-course meals.
Yeah. I haven't had too many six-course meals, but definitely, yeah, I wanted food to be a major part of the book, and showcasing all, like, Japan has such a wide variety of foods too that a lot of people don't know about, and so I wanted to make sure I showcase lots of different Japanese foods.
I think this is kind of, I'll add a spoiler tag, but like one of the scenes where they go out with Yoshi during the night to like have fun. I was like, wow, that was so cool.
Yeah, reading this definitely made me want to go to Japan. I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I mean, just Tokyo, the city, is like a character in itself, and it's so alive. And you could probably spend weeks and not even really, it'd just be the tip of the iceberg exploring that city. Yeah.
Definitely a bucket list for all of us.
Yeah.
So moving away a little bit from Tokyo Ever specific questions into broader questions, would you like to talk a little bit about what your experience has been like in the publishing world as a woman of color?
Yeah, so it's been varied. I wish that I could say it's been great. And on the, in general, it's been mostly positive, but I do find myself in positions where I have to play the role of teacher. As we know, most of publishing is white. And, I find myself sometimes having to explain why something is insensitive or important. For example, a very early cover design for a foreign edition of Tokyo Ever After had a model, an Asian model on it. And I think that representation is great because we don't have enough Asians on covers, period. But she wasn't Japanese. And I had to explain that, it's important that we get, the country right, the country of origin right. I'm lucky that my publisher was very responsive and receptive, and they changed the cover, and so now it has a beautiful Japanese girl on it. And they apologized for the oversight, but those are things that I feel like are common sense to me, and then it kind of shifts your perspective when you have to like explain it to someone, like why that would be important. Like, we don't all look alike, and that seems fairly obvious, but
Are you working on anything new right now?
I just finished the second book for Tokyo Ever After.
Yeah. I didn't realize it was the second book.
Yeah. So we'll definitely see Izumi in a year. And I don't want to say too much. I don't want to give away any spoilers, but she's coming back. You'll see her again.
I don't know if you can say this part, but is she like the headliner character for the book, or are you following something else?
It's first person and it's in her voice. So yeah, she's the main character.
Oh my god, I'm so excited for Izumi and her parents and her friends and Akio. I'm here for it.
I can say that the dog is coming to the palace and he's gonna kind of run amok. So
I'm so excited.
Exciting.
I'm so excited. Another question that we have for you is, what do you hope for readers to take away from your stories?
I want them to take away a sense of joy. Like, I hope that Azumi's story feels very joyful. So that would be first. And then second to that, I really like the idea of stories being windows and mirrors. So either that you get, a glimpse of a life that you've never experienced, or you see a reflection of your life in the text. And so I think what I'd love for most readers that are looking at it as a window through the text for another experience is that they take away like a sense of empathy and understanding for the Asian American experience. And I think that's so important right now, with everything going on. That's what I hope for. So
now we're going to move into more of like a speed round of fun questions, but let's start it off with, do you have a dream cast for your characters?
Oh, yeah. So I've been asked this like a couple of different times, and it's hard to answer because, Asian Americans, Japanese Americans aren't super well represented in American film. So mostly like the dream is just to see a full Japanese American cast in a film, period. So I don't have any names, but I would just love to see like that whole Asian cast.
Yeah, I think that was part of what was so powerful about Crazy Rich Asians was
Mhm.
seeing that like full Asian
Yeah.
cast. Maybe for the first time, you're like, wow, this
Yeah.
is different.
I remember sitting in
Yeah.
the theater and like just touching my chest and like seeing everyone on film and stuff and just being so kind of a little swept away, a little breathless by it. Yeah.
What is your most anticipated 2021 release?
Okay, so I thought about this question a lot. The Ones We're Meant to Find by Joan He, that's coming out in May too. And first of all, it has like the most beautiful cover ever. And I heard it described as like reminiscent of Black Mirror and like a combination of science fiction and thriller. And it features a relationship between two sisters, and I have sisters, and I'm really looking forward to it.
We're so excited. The cover's so beautiful, like you said.
Yeah, it's really gorgeous.
Do you have a book that you would like to recommend to everybody? It doesn't have to be out this year. It can just be one of your own personal favorites.
Gosh, that's such a difficult question. It always like when I make recommendations, it always depends on the person's taste. The last book that I recommended, I can tell you, and this was to my mom, was Circe by Madeline Miller. It was a really beautiful feminist book, and I loved it, and I thought she would love it too. So that was my last recommendation I made.
I love Circe.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It was so good.
Do you have a favorite Asian food?
Yes. So I eat white rabbit candy like it's my job. And I would snack on it and stuff all the time. I buy like huge bags of it. And like a couple of months ago, I broke a tooth on one of the pieces because there's like I can't eat it anymore. But that was like my go-to like snacking, drafting food.
I personally haven't had it, but I've heard that there's white rabbit candy ice cream. So that might be the solution to like your tooth problems.
Yeah, that might be, because I went to the dentist and he was like, you really can't eat this anymore. And I was like, oh no.
Yeah, I've had the white rabbit ice cream, and it does taste very, very similar to the candy. It's almost like you're literally eating the ice cream form of the candy.
I'm going to have to look for it. Thank you. Yeah. That's the tip.
Do you have a go-to quarantine hobby at the moment?
I have been writing a lot. I'm ashamed to say it, I've been watching a lot of television.
That's okay.
I really turned to television. Like my husband and I like do movie nights, and like so every Saturday we watch a movie together. I also have twin toddlers, so they take up a lot of my time. I call them my love spawns, and they keep me busy.
This was not a question we prepared, but do you see your twins in the book?
It's so funny you ask that because like I don't. My husband was like, do you realize that you've put twins in like every book you've written? And I have. So like We'll Never Be Apart had twins, and there's twins in Empress. They're minor characters, and then there's twins in this book. And that was before I had twins. Those Empress and We'll Never Be Apart was like before I had twins. So I wonder if like maybe psychologically something was happening there, and then I had twins. But
manifesting.
No, but the Shining twins, I'm so excited for you to read book 2 because they're back also in book 2, and I love them, and they're going to be back in a big way and play a big role in the book. So
I'm excited to explore more of their character.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to see. I'm trying not to give away spoilers, so I won't say anything about them. But I'm excited for them to be back in the book and for you to read them.
We're so excited. Last but not least, do you have a favorite / least favorite trope in books?
Yes. So I love a good love triangle if it's done well, and it's tricky. My least favorite trope would be like kind of the mean girl trope, like they're being mean just for the sake of being mean. I like it better when that kind of psychology is explored. So that's kind of like girls fighting is my least favorite thing.
Same. I'm always like, don't make the character very one-dimensional. Like there probably is underlying reasons.
Exactly. So as long as that's explored and mined a little bit, I don't mind it. Yeah.
So that was all the questions that we have for the interview. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Do you have any lasting messages you want to send to your fans, to your readers, to the book club?
I don't think, I mean, I just want to thank everyone for being interested in the book, and you two for having me, on today, and everyone that's going to read it. Thank you very much. I hope you love it.